Okay,
Okay.
great. So we're recording now. Do you mind just stating your name? So we're just going to use this for research purposes. So just so we have
Yes, I
a
understand.
record. What's your name?
My name is Miranda. I'm a student at the
Awesome.
University of Aveiro
Okay.
in
And where do you,
Portugal.
Portugal. Okay. Wonderful. And Tiago, what do you like to do for fun?
For fun, well, there's quite a lot of things that I like to do for fun. But as a railway enthusiast, I really love to do everything about trains, basically.
Okay.
Filming, photographing, traveling around. It's sort of my life, basically.
Awesome.
Um,
Okay. So you're a student, and what are you studying?
could you repeat, please?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Could you repeat again what you were saying now?
Oh, sure. Yeah. What are you studying at school?
I'm studying masters in engineering in product design.
Okay.
Basically, I'm just product design and industrial design.
Great.
I'm currently right now in my university, so if there's anything that you want to look around, it's just here
Okay,
at
great.
the moment.
Uh, and what was the name of the university again?
University of Aveiro, or
Aveda.
Universidade de Aveiro in Portuguese.
Okay, cool. Wonderful. So what year in school are you?
uh, in school,
Uh-huh.
which one?
Are
Before entering university, where I am right now.
where you are, like how much longer until you graduate?
I just started masters, so it's going to be a year and a half before that. So by the end of 2019 will be the graduation year.
Great. Okay. And what brought you into this program? Why do you want to be an engineer?
Engineering is more a part of being able to communicate with engineers in product development. As a product design or industrial design, I need to be in the interdisciplinary team, whereas there's going to be a lot of people like accountants, engineers, and this course, besides preparing designers to be industrial and product designers, it also gives a lot of opportunities to communicate with mechanical engineers, to be able to understand their language, their way of working, and be able to understand how to develop the product so it can be sold and placed into the market, which is
Got it.
something that you normally don't do in general design, where you just work in the part of product designing and concept. But then we start to learn how to develop the product to be sold and manufactured, which is the engineering part of this course, is to be able to go beyond just designing something in the constant part, to be able to select materials and have an idea of manufacturing processes,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can design for manufacture, we can design for cost effectiveness, design for eco efficiency, and that sort of things.
Okay, great. So can you tell me tell me about some of the projects you work on in your classes? What are you putting together and getting graded on?
In the project discipline that we have, because we have different subjects. Some of them are technical, like eco design and eco efficiency, 3D modeling, materials and manufacturing processes.
Hmm.
And then we have the design project, which is the main subject, which we use the time to work in design projects, and we have to go from investigation to concept to development and product communication. In the end, we have to present a product with images, posters, a dossier with all the technical informations, and we also most times need to make also a video to kind of like an advert to kind of communicate the product and people the audiences to understand what the product is supposed to be and what are the perks of it.
Okay, great.
And
Uh,
the first the first work that we did this semester was a lunchbox. We had a set of elements to do, and it was a 2-week work, and it was individual. So we had to kind of get that one very fast. The second one was to work with cork as a material. The material was the main thing that we couldn't change. We had to work with cork, and that was it. What I did in my project was a bench for shower for old people, which used cork as the main material.
Cool.
And at that time, I used dimensions to actually make the renders for the different communication methods that we had to present in class.
Oh wow!
And currently, I'm currently working on a share for restaurants for a company which is currently making this university tries to make projects alongside competitions, international, national competitions, so that when we do something in the university, by the end of the project, we can and should present our products to those competitions in such a way that I actually won a first prize in the national design in last year with the share, which at the time, dimensions didn't exist. So I had to use a mix of Keyshot and SolidWorks and 3ds Max. We didn't sleep for a night just to get the renders done.
Actually, so this is awesome information. Would you be able to step me through that process, what you did when you didn't have Dimension? I would love to know just like your whole step-by-step.
Well, no, at first, I don't quite remember, but I think it was during my second year in the bachelor's degree, where we had to make renders for our first product, which was made with sheet metal. And I remember one of our colleagues said that he knew how to use Keyshot, and basically everyone on the classroom started using that program. So we normally model in SolidWorks, in parts and then assemblies. We learned how to do all of that on the second year. And afterwards, since our school license doesn't have a renderer on SolidWorks, we had to use another one.
I see.
So Keyshot was the answer at the time to do those sorts of things.
And does your school have a license for Keyshot?
No, it doesn't. We kind of do that sort of thing.
You figured it out.
Included. No, if someone knows how to use 3ds Max, for example, we can use just the Autodesk education community and just be able to use the educational license from Autodesk. But 3ds Max is a very complicated program to use. It's not something that you use from day to night for delivery to be made in the next day. It's not practical enough.
Okay.
So basically, with Keyshot, we imported the parts and the assemblies from SolidWorks, which just placed the materials that were available and tried to place the object in the proper position and the renders like in 10-15 minutes, and we will have like 5 images in an afternoon, enough for example, the presentation, the dossier, or even a video if needed. And one of the problems that we have is that our teachers require us to be able to show the product in its context, like not having an object in the studio, in a white studio. You can add that, but the teachers want us to have pictures of the object in the context, like a computer in a secretary, a lunchbox in a park, on top of someone's lap. For example, a bicycle is not just used to have a bicycle in the studio. You actually have to have a bicycle on a park, on the road, with someone actually having it. So there's always this uh, the, I am
A
I'm
challenge.
at a loss of words like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But our teachers always ask us to go a step further. Like the study is not enough
Right.
to communicate the product. It has to be used. That's why we normally try to make a moquette to be able to take photos of it and use it, because if the renderer isn't enough, the best thing to do next is to kind of make a model, a real life model,
Right.
either with roof made wood, anything that is available. If we can make a prototype with the actual materials which the product is supposed to be done, that's just amazing. And they prefer us to use photography with those models than just using renderers. Normally, renderers are like a way to present the product as it supposedly is supposed to look.
Yeah.
But then they want to have the physical model to be able to grab it and see how big it is and use it to take photos on the context. Like, for example, when I did the bench for the shower, having the model meant that I could just pick it up and show how do you take it along with you, and how heavy it is and that sort of things.
Yeah.
Which is something that the renderer doesn't do. But the good thing about dimensions is that at the time that I used for this project, I was able to make my own materials, and at the time I said that the cork that I used on dimensions was too shiny. And
Okay.
that was the problem that I had at the time. But still, I was able to go and find some showers, some very simple and not very cluttered showers, and just be able to place the object in there and see the showers just going around all the geometry, just make everything look way better than, for example, in Keyshot.
Right.
But that implementation with all the photographs doesn't normally happen.
Right. Right.
One of the things that I want to use dimensions is because I can just go for a railway station, to a park, to a classroom or something, take a photo with my DSLR, and use that photo as the background in dimensions.
Yeah.
And the program is able to identify geometry, to identify the perspective of the photo, and actually place really, really neatly the object on the. And this is really, really nice, because before we could make, for example, an object on the studio on Keyshot, and then we had to go to Photoshop to actually pick up the render and place it on a photo. And it was like a workaround. It wasn't just directly.
Right.
And so there was always this. And depending, if people didn't have much knowledge about how to use Photoshop, it was like using Paint to copy and paste something on top of another photo. It doesn't look that good.
Yeah.
But for example, one of my colleagues used Premiere to pick up the render and put it on top of a wheelchair while it was moving. It was really rude, but just the fact that she tried to put the object in the context was really good for my teachers. Even if it looked crude, the fact that she tried to have the object on the context was really okay. And the good about dimensions is that it's really good at placing an object and just having it in the context that it needs to be. Like, it doesn't exist in the void. That is the kind of problem when you take photos of a product on the studio, is that it kind of exists in a void. You don't have the sensation of dimension, volume, weight, and presence. It just exists over there.
Yeah.
When you place the object on the renderer on the classroom on top of a chair and so on, you get to understand how big the object is, how massive it can be sometimes. Because when I did that chair that won the first prize in last year, we did all the drawings in real life dimensions on a paper. And this looks quite okay. But when we went to make it in RoofMate, to have the model in 3D right in front of us, and we finished the work, we looked at it and realized it's too low and too large. So
Yeah.
we had to kind of change that, because it's always that sort of thing. When you have a notion of dimension and look at the product, this needs to be changed because it's not looking okay.
Okay. That's great.
So yeah, that's the kind of work that we have.
That's awesome. Okay. So let me just make sure I understand. So when you have a project, the process that you take is like ideating and sometimes even drawing that object out on paper even sometimes.
Yes.
And then you'll go and model it in a 3D modeler, and then you visualize that in somewhere. And prior to using Dimension, it was usually Keyshot.
Keyshot. 3ds Max, if someone could use that.
Yeah.
I actually had an extra subject that I could do in another course, not in design, but new technologies for communication, and went to learn how to use 3ds Max, and that's what I use for the Glassberries Awards.
Okay.
Because I could use physical cameras and this sort of thing, and it looked way better than it did on Keyshot.
Yeah.
But for example, in Dimensions, I don't have to go through that much work to get the same result.
Got it. Yeah. Well, this is awesome. So let me just see what questions I have here. So what would you say is the most challenging part of when you have to do a project like this? Like where's your most time, where's the most time spent?
Most of the time spent is trying to understand what the hell are we going to do.
So the concept phase? Yeah.
Yes, it's not the concept, and it's part of a concept is part of that problem. Because right now, for example, for this project that we are going to do, they say you have to do shares, and that's it. They didn't say make shares for restaurants, make shares for home, make shares for a park, for urban furniture. No, you have to do shares, and it has to go for this company. And we were like, okay. I can try tell you. I will try to find a way to get this and to understand what sort of thing we are going to do. So this is my wall right now. Can you see everything right now?
Yeah.
So this one basically has the company we are working for and where it's going to be sold on the first month.
Okay.
And we kind of went to see what kind of clients do they have, what materials do they work with, how is it going to be sold, what kind of people are going to buy this, like, for example, rich people, mid-class people, how much will someone pay for a share?
Yeah.
And we got this part, then we went to see where the company normally goes in terms of fairs, like Ostelecco, Hospitality Week, I Salone di Milano. We went to see how those conferences look like, to see what kind of products are there.
Yeah.
We went to look at all the shares and other hotels to see what kind of look that they have, and cafes and restaurants. And so when we had everything, we decided, okay, so they work with metal, they work with stainless steel. They normally do chairs and desks. So since their clients are normally hotels and cafes, restaurants, that sort of thing. So if we want to have some sort at least an opportunity to win this contest, we need to do something that really can mean something for this company. Like if they choose this product, they have something to sell for their clients. So we decided to go for a restaurant share for snack bars and that sort of thing, as it's a lot here
Okay.
in Portugal. We took some of the references, images, and we take like the materials which are the most important to have, what kind of finishes it's going to be, like painted, chromed, polished, what kind of price it's supposed to be it's supposed to have, and kind of
Right.
like the notions of
Oh, wow.
the aspect. I'm going to go to another room to show you what we are doing right now. Well, we started to work on SolidWorks to model
Okay.
the product,
Great.
to kind of have a look in render how it looks in 3D, like if it has to have straight lines or curved lines, like that makes a lot of differences.
Right.
So
Right.
since we are working in furniture, the best thing to do is to work on full scale. We
Got
draw
it.
in full scale.
Yep.
Just make sure that we have the notion of angles and heights and that sort of thing.
Right. Right.
Just to make sure that this at least can be used and not being way too small, way too high.
Yeah.
So right now, we were thinking about how the shell in its main should look like. And what we decided to do is, normally chairs are placed one on top of each other when they're outside,
Yeah.
in restaurants and cafes. And we decided that, we went to visit the company that made the contest. And we thought, they have something like this, like they have chairs and they have a small cart where they call just load the chairs on top and take the chairs to another place. So we decided, what if instead of having to place the chairs all on top of each other, you just place them sideways to the desk. Then you have actually used the cart to pick up each chair as if it was like a shopping cart.
Yeah, I was gonna
Where
say.
they go
Like,
all on top.
they go
That's
inside
the
each-
idea. That's the innovation that we want to do. So
Cool.
since the form could actually do that sort of thing, that is the kind of the thing that we are going to try and sell on this product. Since we came up with where are we going to make this product for, to whom, then we tried to what kind of things could be done for the product to be. Usability is a very important thing. Usability and user experience. Normally we talk about this in UI and UX, but in product it also applies. Like if someone should feel really comfortable on a chair or not, because for example, on a cafe in Portugal, people go to have a coffee or something like that, and they take like 5-10 minutes, and they go elsewhere, so they don't stay that much time over there. So the chair doesn't need to be really comfy. It has to be comfy enough for someone to sit down and feel relaxed, but not way too comfy that if he needs to go away or go to the toilet or something like that, it's easy to go. It doesn't kind of bring that much trouble. So these small things, we have to think about them.
Yeah.
And as long as we develop the product, either in CAD or in manual drawing, we always have to think, if you say it like this and you want to go to the bathroom, is it going to block your way or not? Shall we go a little bit back to the back? Shall the armrest go a little bit to the back or a little bit to the front? That's small things. Later change the product in a way that people, because our teachers question us, like, why did you do this? Why do you decide to do like this? And we have to be able to say, we did this because of that. We did this because of this. Our design here in the University of Aveiro can't just be like a conceptual idea. It has to work. Yeah. But it still has to look nice.
So this is an awesome overview of what you're doing. I love because it's very parallel to what the work we do, for the software design. And yeah, I have some more questions about, like, how did you find out about Dimension?
Because, well, in design, there are two things that first years normally have. A MacBook and use Adobe products. That's basically the thing there. Before coming to design, I actually studied 2 years in automotive mechanical engineering. So I was used to using Windows and using open source programs like Inkscape, GIMP, and when I came over here and you have to use Photoshop, you have to use InDesign, you have to use Illustrator, but they don't teach us how to use this program. They're like, okay, I need to get this, I need to get this straight and do something. So in the second year, close to Christmas, around this year, Adobe had like a subscription of Creative Cloud for students, which cost at the time 14 euros. It was really freaking cheap per month. And I can't actually afford that. That's what I did. Now I'm paying 25 euros a month for the subscription. And how I discovered Dimensions was I was going through the library from Creative Cloud, the Creative Cloud app. And I saw Project Felix, and I was like, "What is this?" Like, it had that logo with still drawn, like this is still a concept. It's still not a finished product. Yeah. But the fact that I could use it, I was like, "Okay, what is this?" Because, for example, I tried to use experience design because we had some work in UI and UX design in the second year. And experience design was only available on MacBook, on Macintosh at the time. It wasn't available on Windows, so we kind of had to use Illustrator to do everything. And when we used Marvel for that, now we just use Illustrator and then experience design for that. You need to use a web app for that. And the situation was. Project Felix showed up. I went to there. What is this? Like, it could be useful or not. I went to see, and when I saw that it was kind of like, how was it called? Just give me a moment.
No, it's okay.
The other program I used to use, Keyshot, exactly. Since it was like Keyshot, but it was part of my Creative Cloud subscription. I wasn't actually being lawless. I actually had something that I could have, which I was paying for and could use. So now let me see how this works. And then I saw the potential that I had. It was still in beta. It meant I could be part of the beta program. So I went to the forums and started saying, "Oh, this doesn't work. I'm having trouble with this. Or it would be nice if it could do this sort of thing."
Yeah.
And I had a lot of posts. I talked a lot with Nadine. I actually sent her some models I made, which I wasn't being able to load into Dimensions, because Dimensions right now only works with object. And that was kind of a problem because SolidWorks doesn't export in object.
Right.
It does export, for example, in STL or IGES, but it doesn't export in object. So I kind of have to import in 3ds Max the SolidWorks parts or SolidWorks assembly, and then export it to object. And still it didn't work. It crashed. At the time it crashed, so it wouldn't just load. It stopped right there, like loading, and it still like there forever. And I say, now I have a problem. I have a model that I modeled myself on SolidWorks, and I exported from 3ds Max. I'm trying to load it to Dimensions. I'm not being able to. So I sent her the model, and later it was able to import, but not exactly. Like on this last work, I spent the whole Friday trying to get. I spent the weekend from Friday to mid Saturday. I actually stood a full month in Aveiro. I didn't get back home for a full month just to work for this project. And I spent a weekend working with Dimensions trying to figure out, okay, how do I export a model that I did to Dimensions? Because at first I wasn't able to export the model, or in this case, import the model. So I had to kind of look around at the settings for object export in 3ds Max and see which one will fit the program. And I was able to import the bench into solid into Dimensions, and okay, I got this done. But then I look, it had these black lines of still fighting, and I was like, oh, okay, this doesn't seem right. The model has some geometry just going all the way around, and it wasn't looking nice. It wasn't. So I have images of that. It's just my computer is a little bit. I wasn't even able.
If you could send them afterwards, that would be really helpful.
Yes, I can send you an email, like each image I got and what was the problem at the time.
Great.
What I found was when exporting from 3ds Max to object, there is a setting which said optimize geometry, and that breaks everything when it went to Dimensions. So what I did, I turned that off, and the object just showed up nicely. I could just the problem that I had before is like I applied the material and it didn't have textures, and it looked really saturated.
Okay.
Unsaturated. It really looked unsaturated. It almost didn't have color. What is going wrong with this? Like, if I picked up a wood material, which is the default in Dimensions, that's just placed in there, it will kind of looked really gray for some reason, and it had some black triangles, like it wasn't being rendered correctly. And when I went, because I was working in, this is one thing that I wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget about this before we finish the meeting. I applied the materials, I changed them, and when I went to, like, on the preview, it looked nice, but on the render preview, and then on the render itself, it looked completely whitish, brown, really unsaturated with black lines, like some triangles weren't even being rendered. I'm like, what is wrong with this? Jesus Christ! I just went to the internet to see some settings for this, and it still doesn't work. And then I went to 3ds Max and said, let me change some things around and see what actually works. What I found out is like turning off geometry optimization, just sent the mesh as it was instead of changing it, and the object showed just fine.
Okay.
Dimensions, like I could apply materials, I could scale the textures, and thank God I finally can make this.
Okay.
So
what would have made that easier or better for you, like that process?
Well, for example, importing STL will be easy because in STL you can go and find objects from GrabCAD or programs that have 3D printing models. Because it's just a mesh, it's just a 3D mesh. You can just import any STL and use it as a 3D model. I did that for the glassberries in the last year, where I went to get a spoon, an ice cream spoon. I just went to an STL site and used them as 3D models on. So, for example, if the Adobe stock doesn't have the model that I need, or it has, but it's expensive. As a student, you really need to to make the model in Cork. I spent 53 euros. The school didn't pay anything for it. This is the sort of thing. So money is a really big concern, and I can't just buy stuff on an app store. But if I can do my own textures and my own models, that would be just perfect. I did my own Cork texture, and I just it still looked shiny. It didn't have this kind of texture.
Yeah.
You want to have a look at this?
Yeah.
So it on this situation, it was quite bright. It was have some specular light. Cork doesn't look like this. It's like one of the most matte materials that you can have on your hand.
Right. It shouldn't be shiny.
And so, yeah, it shouldn't be shiny. And when I went to answer that questionnaire that brought me to this, I actually told I did something with Cork, and it looked too shiny on dimensions. I
think I read your response to the survey.
If the sherry on top of the cake for me on dimensions will be to be able to make your own materials.
Yeah.
Like your own materials, your own models, your own studios and sets, and then becoming part of your profile. Like you log in with your Adobe account, and through the cloud, you will be able to access the materials that you've created. Because, for example, I made the Cork for this project.
Yeah.
But if I want to use that Cork on another work, I need to redo the material again. And it's not really needed. If I already have the material, why do I need to do it over and over every single time I did something? For example, as long as I work in projects and I do different materials, because I prefer to photograph my own textures and work them on Photoshop to look nice and have 8 maps and that sort of thing, and be sure that the textures really suit what I want them to look like.
Right.
And this kind of situation, it's the same thing we do in 3ds Max and on ideally on Keyshot, is that you don't use the materials that come standard with the program. You supposedly, as a designer over here, even the freaking materials, you have to do them yourself to make everything look better. It makes sense anyway. Like an engineer, if they make a car, they just put it in Keyshot, select some material, and that's it. Okay. And like, why are you using that material? Why are you not using your own textures? Why are you not making your own material? You're a designer, so look at all the different details. Don't be
right. You don't have the luxury of just using presets. Well, Tiago,
no.
I have to wrap it up because I've got another call coming up, but I can't thank you enough for your time. You gave me so much great material, especially walking me through the
design
prep
process
work you do. Yeah, it's so cool. So I would love to have the files that you mentioned, especially the renders you've done in Dimension and any sort of problems that you've encountered. I mean, that's always going to help us.
Yes, obviously.
And we can certainly keep this conversation going over email because it's really great. Just couple more questions before you go. How old are you? Is the first question.
33 years old, going 34 in the next January.
Oh, wow. Almost happy birthday.
Yeah, almost. And, it's just getting older and older all the time.
Then what kind of like blogs or social networks do you go to for inspiration?
Inspiration. I just before sleeping, I kind of think about everything. Like, as a designer, I don't like to look at all the stuff that already exists because it kind of stains the image that you have. Like with shares, it's like there's so many freaking shares. It's hard to make anything new. And sometimes deconstructing an object and think, okay, a chair is supposed to be a place where you sit on top, where you have a rest for your back. That's basically a share. If it doesn't have the rest, it's a bench. But normally when I want to look for inspiration, I either look at Google. Like, for example, that sort of panel that I showed up, that's basically the inspiration, is looking at where the client work normally is, what kind of clients do they have, what opportunities already exist on the concept we are trying to work for. What is there that works, what doesn't work, what kind of experience that people have, what do they expect?
Right.
And then we just pick up materials like this and we try to conjugate them together like this. Like, I even have this. A nice thing is to have materials with you. Like, this is Burrell.
Yeah.
This is the type of text made in Portugal. And you have these colors like this. And for example, you don't get this on Adobe Stock. You really have to make your own materials.
Yeah.
Because there are so many that if you want to use cork for furniture, if you want to use Burrell for clothes or something like that, you have to take photos of the materials, work them on Photoshop to be seamless, and then import them to 3ds Max, or whatever, and work them around to make them look as the real thing.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. Unfortunately, I do have to go, but I really appreciate your time, and I will send you the Amazon gift card so you can have something for your birthday, hopefully.
Okay. Just a question. If you want to have like another meeting, just trying to sort off the computer because it would be nice to kind of look what's happening. What do I have at the moment?
Yeah.
I'm using the phone, so I can just send in real time images. But if you want to make another meeting, besides just sending emails, if you want to talk around, because talking really lets a lot of things just go through.
Yeah, we'll set something up. I mean, I think you've given me a lot of material, and then I will go back and share it with my team, and we would love to follow up on some of the details of your workflow. So thank you so much, Tiago, and I will be talking to you soon. Okay, bye. Okay,
as soon as I can, I will send you the images of the renders just to have an idea of STL, import STL, import IGES, and eventually SolidWorks and SolidWorks parts and assemblies, Inventor as well. Yeah. Because since it's CAD.
Exactly. No, we're working on it. We're working on it. Awesome.
That is the sort of thing. Right now, STL will be a really big help. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you later.